Imagine waking up one day with 10,000 names etched into your mind. Names of people who don't exist yet. It's 1865, and I'm a girl who knows the future, but no one believes me. How did I get here? And what do these names mean? Stick around, because my story will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about time. I was 16 when the names first came to me. A flood of whispers in the dead of night. It was 1865, and I lived in a small village where the world felt simple, predictable. My days were spent sewing, reading, and helping Ma with the chores. But that night, as I lay in bed, my mind erupted with voices. They weren't mine. They spoke names, thousands of them, each one sharp and clear, like a bell ringing in my skull. I tried to shake them off, thinking it was a dream, but they wouldn't stop. By morning, I could recite every single one. They felt alive, like they were waiting for something, or someone. I wrote them down in my journal, my hand trembling with every stroke. The names were strange, not like the Marys or Johns I knew. They were names like Aisha, Liam, and Zara. I didn't understand why they haunted me. All I knew was they weren't from my time. The village thought I was mad when I tried to explain. My parents, kind but superstitious, whispered about curses. The preacher said it was the devil's work, and I should pray harder. But how could I pray away something that felt so real? I'd sit by the river, staring at my journal, the pages filled with names. Each one carried a weight, like a promise I didn't ask to keep. I'd close my eyes and see glimpses, faces, places, things that didn't exist. A city with towers of glass, machines that hummed with light. I told my friend Eliza, thinking she'd understand, but she laughed, calling it a fanciful tale. Still, I couldn't let it go. The names were my secret, my burden. I started to wonder if I was chosen for something greater, or doomed. I began memorizing the names, all 10,000 of them. It wasn't hard. They were burned into me, like they'd always been there. I'd whisper them under my breath while milking the cows or walking to market. Each name felt like a thread, connecting me to something far beyond my village. I'd lie awake at night, reciting them in order, testing myself. Aisha Patel, Liam Gwynn, Zara Khan. These weren't just names, they were people. People who hadn't been born yet. I didn't know how I knew that, but I felt it in my bones. The world I saw in my glimpses wasn't 1865. It was a place of wonders and terrors, a future I couldn't grasp. I started to fear the names, but I couldn't stop. They were part of me now. One day, I found an old book in the attic, hidden under a pile of quilts. It was a tattered journal, written by a woman named Abigail, dated 1792. Her words chilled me. She spoke of names, too. Thousands of them, flooding her mind in the night. She wrote of visions, of a world yet to come, and how she'd been called a witch for it. Her final entry was a warning. The names are a gift and a curse. Guard them, but never speak them aloud. My heart raced as I read. Was I like her? Was this a legacy passed through time? I hid the journal, terrified of what it meant, but it gave me purpose. I wasn't alone. I started sketching the things I saw in my visions. Towers that touched the sky, carriages without horses, lights that glowed without fire. My drawings were crude, but they helped me make sense of the names. Each one seemed tied to a face, a life, a story. I'd see a boy named Mateo running through a city of steel, or a woman named Priya working in a room full of glowing boxes. I didn't know what it meant, but I felt their importance. My family noticed my obsession, my withdrawal. Ma begged me to stop, saying it wasn't natural. But how could I? The names were my truth, my tether to something bigger. I began to feel like I was living in two worlds, one here, one yet to come. The village started whispering about me. They called me the girl who sees ghosts. I didn't see ghosts, but I couldn't explain that. The names weren't spirits, they were future lives. I tried to ignore the stares, the gossip, but it stung. I stopped going to church, afraid of the preacher's sermons about demons. Instead, I'd wander the woods, reciting the names to the trees. They felt safer than people. One day, a stranger passed through town, a man with sharp eyes and a notebook. He asked about me, saying he studied peculiar minds. I refused to meet him. What if he took my names away? They were mine to protect. I began to notice patterns in the names. Some appeared together, like families or friends. Others felt important, like they'd change the world. I'd see flashes of their lives, a scientist, a teacher, a leader. I wrote down everything I could, filling journal after journal. My room became a shrine to the future, pages strewn across the floor. I'd stay up all night, cross-referencing names with visions. It was exhausting, but it gave me purpose. I wasn't just a village girl anymore. I was a keeper of something sacred, something no one else could understand. But the weight of it was crushing me. How could I carry 10,000 lives alone? One night, I had a vision stronger than the rest. I saw a war, not like the one raging in America, but bigger, deadlier. Machines flew through the sky, dropping fire. People screamed names from my list: Amir, Sophia, Jaden. I woke up sobbing, my journal soaked with tears. I realized the names weren't just a gift, they were a warning. Something terrible was coming, and these people were part of it. I didn't know how to stop it, or if I even could. All I could do was keep their names safe, preserve them. I started hiding my journals, afraid someone would destroy them. The future depended on me, and I couldn't fail. I tried to find meaning in the names, to understand why they came to me. I'd sit by the river, asking the sky for answers. Was I meant to warn someone? To change the future? The names felt like a puzzle, but I didn't have all the pieces. I started writing letters to the future, addressing them to people like Elena or Kai. I described my visions, hoping they'd somehow find them. It was foolish, but it kept me sane. I buried the letters in a tin box under an oak tree, praying they'd survive. Maybe someone, someday, would understand. Maybe they'd know why I was chosen. By winter, I was different. The names had changed me. I wasn't the girl who laughed with Eliza or helped Ma bake bread. I was distant, consumed. My family stopped asking questions. They just watched me with sad eyes. I didn't care. The names were my purpose, my reason for existing. I'd recite them in the snow, my breath fogging the air, each name a spark of warmth. I felt closer to the future than to 1865. I started to wonder if I belonged there, with those people, in that world of glass and light. But how could I reach them? I was trapped in my time, a prisoner of the present. One day, I met a boy named Thomas, a traveler passing through. He was different, curious, not judgmental. I told him about the names, expecting him to laugh. He didn't. He listened, his eyes wide, and asked to see my journals. I hesitated but showed him one page. He traced the names with his finger, whispering them like a prayer. He said they felt familiar, like a song he'd forgotten. For the first time, I didn't feel alone. Thomas promised to return, to help me understand. But he never did. I waited for weeks, my heart breaking. The names were all I had left. I started dreaming of a woman named Lila. She was vivid, real, like I could touch her. In my dreams, she worked in a place filled with machines that spoke. She was kind, but sad, carrying a weight like mine. Her name was on my list, number 7432. I saw her life, her joys, her losses, and felt connected to her. I'd wake up crying, wanting to tell her she wasn't alone. I wrote her letters, pages of them, describing my world, my fears. I told her about 1865, about the names. I buried them with the others, hoping she'd find them in her time. Lila became my anchor, my reason to keep going. The visions grew stronger, more frequent. I'd lose hours, staring into nothing, seeing the future. I saw cities crumble, then rise again. I saw people fighting, loving, creating. The names were there, always there, tying it all together. I started to understand. They weren't just people, they were moments. Each name was a piece of a story, a thread in a tapestry I couldn't yet see. I tried to draw it, to map it, but it was too vast. My journals overflowed. My hands ached, but I couldn't stop. The future was calling, and I had to answer. I was its voice, its memory. The village turned against me. They burned one of my journals, calling it witchcraft. I screamed, fought, but they wouldn't listen. I saved the others, hiding them in the woods. I stopped talking to anyone, even Eliza. The names were all I trusted. I'd sit in the dark, reciting them, my voice steady despite the fear. I started to see patterns in the visions, events tied to names, like ripples in a pond. A man named Arjun would invent something world-changing. A woman named May would save lives. I didn't know how, but I believed in them. They were my purpose. I found Abigail's grave in the churchyard, hidden under weeds. She died young, her tombstone unmarked but for a single word, Seer. I knelt there, crying, asking her for guidance. Why us? Why the names? That night, I dreamed of her. She stood in a field, her eyes kind but tired. She said, "The names are a bridge. You carry them until they're born." I woke with new resolve. I wasn't just memorizing names, I was preserving them. I was a link between my time and theirs. I started writing again, faster, more urgently. The future needed me. I began to see my own name in the visions, Clara. It wasn't on the list, but it was there, fleeting, in the background. I saw myself, older, standing in a city of light, holding my journals. It felt like a promise, like I'd find my place in their world. But how? I was stuck in 1865, a girl with no power. I started experimenting, trying to send messages to the future. I'd carve names into trees, whisper them to the wind. It was desperate, but I had to try. The names deserved to be known, to be remembered. I was their guardian, their voice. One night, a storm hit, and I lost 3 journals to the rain. I wept for days, feeling like I'd failed them. The names were still in my head, but the loss hurt. I rewrote them, every single one. My hands blistered from the pen. I hid them better, in a cave by the river. I started to feel like a fugitive, always looking over my shoulder. The village was watching, waiting for me to slip. I didn't care. The names were worth it. They were my reason, my light in the dark. I'd protect them, no matter the cost. I saw a name, Elias, connected to a great discovery. In my visions, he stood in a room of machines, holding something that glowed. I didn't understand it, but it felt important. I wrote pages about him, sketching his face, his world. He was number 3214 on my list. I felt proud of him, like he was mine. The names were becoming family, each one a piece of my heart. I talked to them in my mind, telling them to be strong, to be ready. I didn't know if they could hear me, but I hoped. I was their keeper, their hope. I started to feel time slipping. Days blurred into nights, and I'd lose track of where I was. The names were consuming me, pulling me into their world. I'd see 1865, then blink and see a future of endless roads and flying machines. My body was here, but my mind was there. I stopped eating much, stopped sleeping. Ma cried, saying I was fading. I didn't know how to tell her I was alive in a way she couldn't understand. The names were my life now. They were my past, my future, my everything. I was no longer just Clara. I was theirs. I had a vision of a girl named Amara, number 8971. She was fierce, leading people through a broken world. I saw her speak, her voice strong, her eyes bright. I loved her instantly. I wrote her story, every detail I could capture. I wanted her to know I saw her, that I believed in her. I buried her pages with the others, my tin box now heavy with letters to the future. I prayed they'd find them, that they'd know I existed. I wasn't sure if I was saving them or myself. All I knew was the names kept me alive. By spring, I was a shadow of myself. The names had taken everything, my time, my strength, my place in the world. But I didn't regret it. They were worth it. I'd sit by the river, reciting them, feeling their lives in my veins. I saw their world clearer now. Cities of glass, skies filled with lights, people connected in ways I couldn't fathom. I wanted to be there, to meet them. But I was bound to 1865, a girl out of time. I started to wonder if I'd live long enough to see their world. I hoped I would, even if just in a dream. The preacher came to our house one night, demanding my journals. He said they were unholy, that I was a danger. I stood my ground, clutching my bag of hidden pages. Ma begged him to leave, but he wouldn't. I ran into the woods, my heart pounding, the names echoing in my head. I hid in the cave, trembling, reciting them to stay calm. They were my shield, my strength. The preacher never found me, but I knew the village wouldn't stop. I had to protect the names, no matter what. They were bigger than me, bigger than 1865. I started teaching myself about time, reading anything I could find. Old books, almanacs, even myths. I wanted to understand how the names came to me, how I saw the future. Nothing explained it, but I kept searching. I felt like I was close to something, a truth about time itself. The names were a key. I was sure of it. I'd lie in the grass, staring at the stars, asking them why. Why me? Why now? The stars never answered, but the names did. They whispered back, steady and sure, keeping me grounded. I was their vessel, their voice. I saw a name, Nadia, tied to a moment of peace. In my visions, she stood in a room where people from all over the world spoke as one. Her voice was soft but powerful. Her name number 5642. I wrote her story with care, every word a tribute. I felt like I knew her, like she was my sister. The names were no longer just a list. They were my family, my purpose. I'd protect them, even if it meant losing everything else. I buried her pages with the others, my tin box, a time capsule for the future. I hoped Nadia would find it. The visions started to hurt. They'd come like storms, leaving me dizzy and weak. I saw wars, inventions, moments of beauty and pain. The names were always there, guiding me through. I'd collapse after, my body shaking, but I'd write it all down. My journals were my legacy, my proof I existed. I started to fear I wouldn't live long enough to finish. The names were too many, the visions too vast. But I couldn't stop. They were counting on me, even if they didn't know it. I was their keeper, their bridge to the future. One night, I saw all 10,000 names at once. It was overwhelming, a chorus in my mind. I saw their lives, their world, all connected. I understood then, they weren't random. They were chosen, tied to moments that would shape the future. I was part of it, a small piece of a vast design. I cried, not from fear, but from awe. I wasn't alone anymore. The names were with me always. I wrote until dawn, my hand steady, my heart full. I was ready to carry them, no matter how heavy they were. The village tried to lock me away. They called me a danger, a heretic. I escaped, running to the woods, my journals clutched to my chest. I hid in the cave, living off berries and river water. The names kept me alive. I'd recite them in the dark, their rhythm my heartbeat. I wasn't afraid anymore. I knew my purpose. The future was in my hands, and I'd protect it. I started carving names into the cave walls, a permanent record. They'd survive, even if I didn't. The names were my legacy, my gift to the world. I saw my own death in a vision. It was quiet, peaceful, under an oak tree. I wasn't old, but I wasn't afraid. The names were safe, hidden, waiting for their time. I saw myself smiling, my journals beside me. I knew then that I'd done enough. The names would find their way. I'd carried them as far as I could. In the vision, a girl found my tin box centuries later. Her name was Lila, number 7432. She read my letters, her eyes wide, and understood. I woke up crying, but I was at peace. My work was done. I spent my last days writing. Every name, every vision, every hope. I filled my journals, my hands trembling but sure. I buried them all, my tin box heavy with the future. I whispered each name one last time, a prayer for their lives. I didn't know if I'd changed anything, but I tried. I'd carried the names, kept them safe. I lay under the oak tree, the stars above me, and felt them with me. Aisha, Liam, Zara, they were all there. I closed my eyes, ready to let go. The names would live on, and that was enough. I don't know if you'll ever find my journals, but I hope you do. I hope you read these names and feel their weight, their promise. I was Clara, a girl from 1865, and I carried 10,000 lives in my heart. They were my purpose, my reason to exist. I saw your world, your wonders, your pain. I believe in you, in the future you'll build. The names are yours now. Carry them, protect them, let them live. I'm with you always, a whisper in time. Thank you for listening. My story is yours now. If this story moved you, if Clara's journey made you question time and fate, hit that subscribe button. Join our channel for more tales that bend reality and spark wonder. Your support keeps these stories alive. Be part of the journey.